Hey folks, Jamie here, and I want to tell you a little story, okay? Gather around everybody, it's story time. So, an exasperated father walked into his son's middle school, and he asked the principal what the son should consider for a career. The principal said to the father, well, it really doesn't matter what he does because he is rude, unruly, and too dumb to learn anything and will probably never be a successful person. That father, by the way, his name was Herman Einstein. And that son, I would later learn, was his son, Albert. Now, before we start looking poorly at that principal and that time back in 1895, I think a lot of us, and parents, you do this all the time. A lot of people dismiss a child's talent because it bubbles to the surface as either an annoyance or a disrespect or something to that nature. Maybe you have that kid that when you tell him he shouldn't do something or he should do something or whatever, he fights you every single time. You may have a negotiator on your hands. And that kid will later grow up, if given the right people in his life and the caring adults and stuff, may grow up to be a future leader one day because they know how to negotiate, because they've been taught to. If you have that kid who loves animals and she brings home every stray dog, cat, bird, ferret in the neighborhood, you may have an animal control officer on your hands. See, what parents tend to do, and Lord knows mine did, they would dismiss the talent because it first bubbles to the surface as an annoyance, as a disrespect, and because they only see what's happening at surface level. If you only look what's happening at surface level, you're not going to see the full picture. But what a good parent does, they take what many would see as an annoyance or a disrespectful behavior or what have you, and they take it and they try to mold it into something that can actually be beneficial. In other words, they redirect it into a different place where it has a chance to grow. Then maybe you're like me. I was always getting in trouble for talking in class. My mom I remember when I was in high school, my mom had a list of punishments to give to my school that I was attending at the time. And I guess this was what worked for her, so she figured it's going to work for me. And I was that kid that some teachers hated having in their class. See, when I was a kid, I like and I still love radio. I still do. Heck, I do a radio show about it. And so when a teacher had asked me what time it was, I'd say, oh, it's 42 minutes past the hour. It's 19 before the hour. And that got some laughs out of some of the kids who probably didn't know what this kid was talking about. But then I had one teacher. She said, Jamie, I think I was about maybe 8 or 9. She said, Jamie, you should be on the radio. You should be on the radio. And then when I was in high school, I had a teacher who said the same thing. And he noticed how the way I was able to speak. Now, shameless plug here, I do battle speech impediment. I do have a bit of a stutter. But for some reason, it doesn't come out when I'm recording YouTube videos. I don't know why. And please do not judge me. I don't want to hear any negative jokes in the comments, KK? I had this teacher. He was my band teacher. His name was Bill Sabo. This was at the school I was attending, at the blind school I was attending when I was in high school, or middle school and through a little bit of high school. I'm sorry, it was 5th grade, 6th grade, all the way up until I was about maybe 11th grade. His name was Bill Sabo. And Bill noticed my stage presence when I was up on stage. Whether I was singing or just speaking, he knew I had something to offer. And he came to me one day and said, Jamie, you should consider being a speaker. You should start doing speaking engagements. So I did some while I was in school. And instead of telling me to shut up, a lot of what I talked about is what I'm talking about now. That's why I have a YouTube channel. That's why I'm uploading videos and sharing advice and sharing opinions, because that sort of set the standard for what I do now. Now, mind you, he could have gotten annoyed with me. He could have kicked me out of his class about 1,000,000 different times, but he didn't. Later in my high school years, I had another teacher. Her name was Leah Burkett. And by the way, me and Miss Leah, we regularly talk and text to this day. One day, she heard me on the radio. I called into a radio station. I call radio stations all the time for song requests and stuff. She heard me on the radio. She said, I heard you on one of the morning shows this morning. Jamie, you were great. And I said, thank you, Teach. And she goes, you need to be on the radio. Something I'd heard before. And so I started working and perfecting my craft as a broadcaster. I started working on it. And I had this one caseworker that said, Jamie, you will never be on the radio. It is too visual. You can't do it. It's just never going to happen. It's just never going to happen. And the reason why I bring up Albert Einstein's story is because that's something that parents and teachers do to kids all the time, every single day of the year, without realizing it. That kid may have a dream and the parent's like, you can't do that. But I was fortunate to have a bunch of caring adults in my life who didn't judge, didn't try to shame. They saw something far better, far more nuanced. They saw what I could be. They saw what I was. They saw who I am and what I would be. One of the things about me that many of you who are watching me don't know is that I have a good memory. I can remember things from years ago. It's funny because when I do it at home, my mom's like, what are you talking about? And I'll remember the day, the time, and everything. And she'll be like, what are you talking about? What are you saying? You're talking crazy. And I think the reason why she does it is because she either doesn't want to remember what happened or she generally doesn't know. I'm not going to sit here and play psychologist, okay? But I say all that to say all of this. Sometimes a kid's most annoying trait can actually be a talent in disguise. But the problem is many parents don't see it that way initially. They see it as back talk. Or if you're black like me, they say word for word or any of the other 1,500 ways that us black folks used to say all kinds of things. They'll say that. They'll say, oh, they're being just disrespectful. Or if a kid starts repeating what they hear on the TV, they say they're talking nonsense. I know about this because I was that kid. I was that kid that would watch the news just to learn the names of the anchors on the TV. I was that kid that wanted to know the name. I literally remember when I was a kid calling a television station just to ask them who did their imaging voice. Crazily enough, that's the kind of thing I do now, except for not on television stations. I do voices for a couple of radio stations outside of my work as a YouTube youth speaker. But the point I'm making is sometimes the thing that we think is an annoyance or rude or disrespectful or whatever may not be. What it may be is just that kid has something they want to say or has a dream they want to achieve. And what they need more than anything is not just a way to do it, but they need that word of encouragement from a caring adult. I had several caring adults in my life. Many of them I still keep in contact with today. I had one, and this is one of my favorite stories of all time. So I was still attending the school for the blind. I had one teacher here where I live. I was in my, I think late teens, early 20s. She told my mom, she said, look, as much as you don't want to hear it, as much as you don't like it, as much as you don't care, he's still an adult. Let him grow up. He's an adult. And my mother did what every parent does when they feel challenged by a teacher who is literally telling them the truth. They try to dismiss it. He's not going to run my house. He's not going to tell me what to do. He's not going to this. He's not going to that. But this teacher saw something that, and parents, you don't always see it. That teacher, that caring adult, didn't see me as the problem child, as the child that was going to run the house, as the now adult that was going to try to run things. She saw what I could be. She saw the difference that I can make. She took what many perceived to be an annoyance and redirected it to something that could be used to make a difference. And that is why I sit before you today. Because somebody, or in my case, a lot of somebodies, cared. A lot of somebodies cared. They didn't judge. And not saying that from time to time they didn't hold the line with me, but they taught me that another line was available. One more memory and then I'll close. When I was about 11 or 12 years old, my mom signed me up for a mentoring program called Big Brothers, Big Sisters. What I didn't know is that Paul, my big brother, was teaching me lessons about life that you couldn't always learn in school. So one day we're coming home from somewhere and he gets a call from his now wife, Tracy. And what really impressed upon me was how he spoke to his wife. They're just laughing and playful and mind you, his mom didn't like his girlfriend, and honestly, I don't think a lot of parents like who their children date, but that's a different story. We'll save that for another day. But they're laughing and playful and just having a great old time on the car phone while he's taking me home. And what Paul didn't know was that this 12-year-old kid in the back of his Hyundai Sonata was actually taking notes, secretly taking notes. And I decided that when I get married or have a girlfriend or have a spouse or what have you, that's how I want to speak to my wife. People say the man is the king of the castle. And while that is true, the man should treat his wife like a queen. Now, I'm going to hear a lot in the comments about if a man disrespects his mom or disrespect his wife. I don't believe that's true. Because you can have a rocky relationship with your mother or father or parents or whatever, and you and your wife can have a decent relationship. Now, why am I saying all of this? Because again, you redirect the annoyance and turn it into something good. You change the course, if you will. Because that kid, the one that you think is disrespectful, and be prepared for this, y'all, that kid may be teaching you something. Because guess what? Kids, we think that we think that we had to be the one that teaches them, but sometimes they teach us. And sometimes all the adult needs to do is just redirect that annoyance into something good. So the next time your child talks back, and they will talk back, or have an opinion, or speak up for themselves, think about this. Maybe they're not talking back. Maybe they're just speaking up for themselves and what their needs are. The next time if you're a teacher and you have that class clown kid, that kid may be secretly honing a skill. We have to take that talent that we think is annoying. We have to take that thing that's annoying and turn it into a blessing. We have to take that mess and turn it into a message. We have to take that so-called disrespectful kid and help them to share their thoughts and share their ideas and share their feelings in a way that is not disrespectful. But the most important thing we have to do is, while we're doing this, stop trying to be right and just listen. Good luck to you.